Listeners, welcome back. It is For The Fans, and we are back to our quartet. The four of us are together. I am joined this week by Keno. It's Callum Keane.
The band are back together.
They are back together. What would be our album name? Would we have an album name? Our first album?
I'll have to go away and think about that one.
For The Fans. Oh, good originality there, Jack.
Self-titled debut album.
Good thinking. I'm also joined by Jack Peachman. Work the space. Jack.
Hello.
You're not top of fantasy football right now. How do you feel about that?
Second by a point.
I'm
a little upset, but I'll get over it.
Good.
Maybe.
And it's the return. Can we get a drum roll for the return of... It's Christopher Proudie. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. I didn't know if I would be on this season, so...
Did you have a nice trip? Did we? Did you have a nice trip around Europe?
Yeah, I did. I've seen better football than the Premier League. But,
well, I was going to say, what football grounds did you see? Because I know you're a bit of a connoisseur of the football stadiums.
Sort of San Siro.
San Siro, tick.
I don't know what the one in Prague was called, but I went to see a match there.
Brilliant. The one I actually saw a game at, he doesn't know the name of. Welcome back, Proudie. If you've not seen Proudie before, this is what Proudie's like. Now, actually, speaking of you, Christopher, we're going to come on to our predictions with Predictor at the end of the show. But last week, me, Jack and Keno all did our predictions, and I think I speak for everyone, listeners and hosts alike, that we were very intrigued to see what you've got on offer for us. So, can you run us through your Premier League predictions? The feature folks will be back next week once these predictions are out of the way. But Proudie, we'll hand over to you. We'll kick off, though, with the winner.
I've got Man City.
Is there a reason why? Because me and Keno, I think, agreed with that. Jack went with Chelsea.
City outside the top four. Can't even beat Everton at home.
I mean, valid. Right, so you've got Chelsea win it. Runners up.
No, Man City to win it.
Man City to win it, sorry. Runners up.
Man United.
Manchester United, very similar to mine and Callum's at this stage.
I think you just watched last week's show.
Completely your top four.
I've got Chelsea to finish third and Liverpool to finish fourth.
So you think Spurs and Arsenal will finish outside of the top four?
Yes.
I think I speak on behalf of fans of those clubs. Can you give us a reason as to why?
Well, I've actually put Spurs as my underachiever, but we'll get on to that.
Oh, we'll get on to that in a minute.
I think it's just Wembley. I feel like that's going to be their downfall this year. So,
you think it's going to have that big a factor that they're not going to perform as expected? I mean, of course, listeners, he has seen the Chelsea Spurs game, so I mean, do we take points off him for that? I guess we'll leave it there. Right, what do you want to tell us about next?
I've got overachiever. I've put interestingly, I've put Watford.
Watford? What are you expecting out of Watford?
I just think Silva's built a good team. He's got some young players in there like Will Hughes and Chalobah now. Andre Gray is now up front with Troy Deeney. So, I mean, their strike force is a lot better. I think they could finish top 7.
Top 7? Do you think Watford could finish top 7?
Well, 7th.
Do you think they could be aiming for silverware?
That was good. That was sort of good.
Semi-finals of the FA Cup.
Marco Silva is the manager.
Oh, yeah.
Silverware.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh,
everyone's turned off.
First pod of the year. We got away with those last week. So you've already mentioned it, but your underachievers then are Tottenham.
Yep.
That's bold. So where do you think Tottenham will finish? Maybe not top 6.
No, I think they'll scrape 6th place. They'll finish below
just ahead of Watford.
Yeah. I think so. Like that's what I see. I just think Tottenham are going to struggle in the Champions League again, struggle at home. Their away form should do well. Harry Kane will still get his 25 goals, but I just don't think they're going to do as well as they have done for the last 2 years.
Wow. Well, I mean,
interesting.
Who are we to argue? Right, what do you want to go for next? Top goal scorer or relegated? We'll go to relegated first.
Relegated, I've got Brighton, Crystal Palace, and Newcastle.
Interesting. So, did any of us have those 3? I don't think
I had Newcastle and Brighton.
I think I had Burnley in mine.
I thought Burnley, but I feel like they'll stay up.
So you think
you thought Burnley, then you saw them beat Chelsea away. That's what you're telling us.
They've not been influenced by the results in the Premier League. They're just what
I'm not sure. Okay, well, on your relegation candidates, then you don't think Huddersfield will go down? Interestingly,
no, I think they'll.
Is that anything to do with the fact they've got 6 points so far, or
no? They'll finish 17th. I think Wagner's got a good team. I think Meunier's going to get 20 goals, and I think they'll do well. Their home form, I feel like, is going to keep them up. So they'll get a few big scalps.
You think Meunier's going to get 20 goals?
Keno, him and Jack, I've seen him have a decent start to the season and they're backing him. That's what I like about it.
I mean, I said 15. I think he could be like the surprise package.
I think he could be.
You backed Can I just say, last week when I said it, you backed me. You've changed your tune in a week.
No, I just think the fact didn't he score again this weekend?
No, he didn't.
I didn't score. You had him in his fantasy team. You were gutted, I'm sure. All right, fair enough.
He's the reason that you're second and not first, Jack.
I mean, I'm at words to forgive him when he bangs in 20 this year.
20 now, that's back up to... I mean, I said Rudy would get 17, so we'll leave that there for now. Scored again tonight, though. We'll talk about that in a moment. Right, Proudie, continue. What else have you got for us?
We've got first sacked. I've gone for Bilic. I
feel like Jack. You and Jack again, friends.
We could be at the West Ham hate club.
Did you discuss these
like
with each other?
I had Newcastle, Brighton, and West Ham to get relegated.
That's true.
I don't think they'll go down, but I think Bilic is going to struggle again. Like, they've spent quite a lot of money on their strike force. I mean, Chicha will probably do well, but Arnautovic already looks like he won't be a good addition to the squad. Again,
Proudie once again has predicted Bilic after seeing West Ham lose their opening 2 games, but they're definitely not a factor.
I mean, to be fair though, I mean, in the sort of the modern day climate, 2 more losses and he probably will be gone. So,
interesting. All right, that's a good point. We'll give Jack, because Jack and Proudie have gone for the same answer with Slavan Bilic. We'll give an extra bonus point to whoever tells me on which game week he will be sacked.
10.
Game week 10, Jack?
That's quite a long time away.
I was going to say 12.
All right, there you are.
That's longer than I thought.
Yeah, I would say like 7.
The way through the season.
I'd have gone like 7-ish.
Yeah.
All right, Proudie, top goal scorer, should we go that one?
Yeah, I've got Lukaku.
Oh, boring. I think we all said that as well, didn't we?
I did. I think he's just copied my predictions, except the ones where he heard me say Chelsea would win the league and finish outside top 4. Those are mental.
Who did you say for a top assist?
I've got Eriksen.
Jack didn't say that.
I didn't say. Okay, I forgive you.
So. All right, Christian Eriksen. So you think Spurs will be the underwhelming side this season, but you think Eriksen will get the most assists?
Yeah, it'll be setting up Harry Kane, but I don't think they'll be winning too many games. So,
all right, that's fair. Fair enough. What categories have we got left?
I think we've got unlikely England call-up. I think
that's is that have we got any others left, or is it the last one?
Player of the year. I think.
All right, let's have your player of the year first. Player of the year first.
Yeah, I've gone Pogba.
Paul Pogba. I think. Yeah. Did anyone say that? I think I might have said Pogba. I'm not sure.
I wish I can remember what I said a week ago.
Maybe Mickey. I mean, it was last week and we literally can't remember. Isn't that awful? All right, Proudie. And finally, we've got, so far on the plane, we've got Glenn Murray. Jack, who did you say again? I've totally...
Shawcross, clean sheet against Arsenal.
Shawcross, clean sheet against
Shut down Lacazette at the weekend.
And Trent Alexander-Arnold, who I will say scored a belter of a free kick in the Champions League. So, I'm already feeling good about that one.
Can I just say, I'm planning on doing some hashtag Shawcross 2018 shirts.
I know, when Charlie Austin scored as well, I thought, oh no, he's going to be
we'll talk about that. Is that in the running order, that game?
No, it's not.
I deliberately chose not to.
I mean, it was a 3-2 result. I feel like you've done a disservice there.
Yeah, but I'll say Southampton fans, right? Great win. I just apologise for Jack's influence over Charlie Austin. That's the only reason it's not in the running order. Revealing that early on. Proudie then, who are you adding to the Trent Alexander-Arnold, Glenn Murray and Ryan Shawcross five-a-side team as it's almost
who's going to be the quartet in the band, basically?
You're going for...
I've dropped his name already, Andre Gray. I think will be
that's not too shabby.
Yeah, I think he'll probably have a good season at Watford, and I think Southgate will call him up.
I think that could potentially be more in that than Alexander-Arnold, actually.
Interestingly then, who do you think, I mean, we're talking very much in the future here, but who do you think England's top 4 strikers will be going into that tournament?
Well, this is the thing.
Because Andre Gray is going to have to oust somebody. I think that's the point I'm getting at. He's going to have to oust one of... Well, yeah, I guess Sturridge is probably the most likely of the 4 that would get it. But Vardy, Kane, you're probably putting Welbeck in there as well, aren't you? Glenn Murray, of course.
If you're talking sort of pure number 9s, I think Welbeck is almost seen more of as a wide forward now. So you've maybe got, and maybe Vardy as well. I'm not sure you'd play him maybe at the centre of a 3. So there aren't that many players other than obviously Harry Kane. Let's say if Gray does have a really good year and Watford do well, then he could definitely be.
I just think that even if those two things happen, that they have a good year and he does well, there's no chance he goes. I just think that's
true.
Just the way
Troy Deeney would have gone.
Just the way England is. Yeah, I just don't think it'd get the call.
Charlie Austin can score penalties though, so he's got a chance.
Interesting. Well, good point. So that's a very good reason for him to go based upon that. Right, Paddy, those predictions are locked in. You can't change them. Worth noting, Ben, when you look at these at the end of the season, that Proudie had these 2 weeks into the Premier League season, and West Ham were already bottom. Right then, let's crack on then with this weekend's fixtures. And there were some very interesting games. We're going to kick off with the Monday night one, which isn't something we do very often, actually. Usually we go in chronological order. Today we're almost working backwards. But it was Manchester City 1, Everton 1, a game full of incident. And, I mean, where do we start, boys? Do you want to start with the Everton goal? Wayne Rooney gets him off to a flyer. And it's a nice little finish from Wayne. I mean, 17 goals this season. I think it's possible, Jack.
I mean, I'm struggling to find an argument against. I'm going to be honest. Been quite a little thrown out by the fact you thrown me on that bombshell. I thought the goal was actually quite good, but like in terms of Everton, it kind of. I don't think Wayne Rooney got in those kind of opportunities really for United over the last few years. You know, it was quite an intelligent little run by him, and it was a really nice finish as well. It was kind of a classic Rooney. I know it's gone straight down the middle and kind of hit the keeper and gone in, but it was kind of quite, I guess, intelligent play.
Yeah, I was going to say it's fired into him. And then I think he converts it quite nicely, actually. I'm quite impressed by that.
And I was actually impressed with Calvert-Lewin's little bit of hold-up play, kind of little shimmy just to create that space to pull the ball back. That was some really intelligent play by the youngster.
It's interesting that he's getting the nod ahead of players like Kevin Morales this season, who you might suspect would have played. I actually thought...
He's had a very good summer, though, Calvert-Lewin, as well.
That's very true. It's interesting, though. Like we'll talk about the game. Obviously, there's a sending off, which we'll talk about in a moment, and then Sterling equalises late on, and Schneiderlin also goes very late on. But the way the game went, like we'll change it around a little bit. So the Walker sending off happens. Everton go 1-0 up. Walker gets sent off for 44.
Harsh, in my view.
Let's have our thoughts on that. Kino thinks it's harsh. Do you think it's a yellow card? I mean, it is a second yellow. So do you think it's a yellow card?
I think while he looks at him, I think Bobby Madeley thinks that there's an elbow there. If not an elbow, like a high elbow, that Walker's maybe tried to do one in his ribs, like at that height.
Okay.
And I think he's assumed that, but there wasn't anything. And so while it probably would have been maybe a stern talking to, maybe a last warning, I don't think it was worth a second yellow. I think it was harsh.
All right, Proudie, are you on that line of thought, or do you think he should have gone?
Yeah, I think it's the angle. That he sees it from. He can only see it from one angle.
He had a very good view of it.
Yeah, had a very good view of it. But I think,
I don't think he did have a good view of it. I kind of refute that. I think he's looking at it, and it looks like if it looks like it's a red card, and it's not a red card, that suggests he's not had a very good view of it. Right?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Was the linesman on the far side?
I'm pretty sure
he's on the other side, I think. Yeah.
It's on the far side.
I feel like it's one of those ones where Walker's got in a bit of a huff already. You know, he's on a booking, and the ref kind of just fills in the gap, so to say. You know, he probably sees the little glance over, sees that there's a coming together, can't really see it from his angle, and it's one of those ones where if the linesman's on that side, it's almost never given as a yellow card. The referee almost puts faith in the linesman to flag for it.
You've got the fourth official and the other linesman, though, who have probably got arguably a slightly better angle. Surely at that point they have to intervene.
It's a bit brash, and it was a bit sort of over the top, and the look just beforehand made it look a lot more sort of sinister, I think.
The reaction as well, I didn't like.
And
the reaction gets him sent off, because essentially there's very little, if any, contact made. I don't love that. I mean, I tweeted it out. I don't like the implication that if you look at the defender or you look at the player before you then reposition for the ball, then that means you're doing it with intent. Like, surely part of positioning, sure you can be aware of where the player is.
Yeah,
but Walker's got to try and figure as a defender, like, I've got to try and get in front of him, and I've got to try and use my body a little bit, which is completely normal to try and use your body to try and control or challenge for the ball. And I just think Calvert-Lewin's made an awful lot of it. And has got him sent off. Like,
I agree.
You will see that challenge like 500 times on a weekend. Like just in the Premier League, I would imagine, and I don't know. I don't really like it.
A bit off topic. Did anyone see Sergio Ramos's sending off this weekend? Because it was something very similar.
Was he sent off? How many times was he sent off this weekend? Because Ramos, he loves it. Was it?
It was only once, but he went.
He went 23rd in the league.
I love it. 23rd. He's not even playing that many seasons.
That's just in the league as well.
Yeah, that's this year, boys. That's this season.
I mean, that incident was somewhat similar to this. He basically the way that the Ramos one went was he kind of went through. He didn't even go through the back of the attacker. The attacker kind of stood under the ball, but an off angle. Ramos came in and then fell on the other player, and it's kind of judged that he's gone through him essentially, which he really didn't do. And it's one of those ones where it was a bit ridiculous. And it was very similar to this Walker one in a weird way, where you feel like
it's Temple too, isn't it? Where Ramos goes elbow first, essentially. It's very Ramos. but a bit unfair.
I think, like, despite sort of bringing it to the City, the game though, the rest of the game, I think despite that red card, I thought City actually did pretty well even after going down to 10 men.
Didn't necessarily look like they had 10 men.
No, in it, and maybe that extra man either being able to maybe soak up attacks on the break in the midfield, or maybe an extra runner forward would have got them that second goal that they needed to get the win if they'd have had that same performance. I thought they were actually pretty good, and particularly in the second half, you could not tell that there was that there was an extra outfield man for Everton.
Well, I'll ask Proudie about that. Proudie, Koeman, I think, makes a mistake. We were quite sort of we praised Arsene Wenger last week for the changes he made based on a sending off, essentially. Not a send off, sorry, a tactical change. It wasn't a sending off. My apologies. And Koeman did a similar thing where he saw that all of a sudden a team were going for it more, and Craig Shakespeare made a change which arguably messed it up in the end. And Koeman, you got to think, he's playing against 10 men with this Everton side. His move is to take Ashley Williams off and play 4 at the back, take Tom Davies off, who I thought had a pretty good game. I do wonder if him being on a yellow influenced the decision, and brought on 2, not necessarily creative. I think Klassen is creative, but not in the same way that maybe Gylfi is. But 2 forward-thinking midfielders, I would argue, and they were pretty absent, I thought.
Yeah, no, I think it's baffling to wonder why he made the change. And I thought Everton looked really good how they were playing. Like, I think it you know, at the start they were saying that Rooney was playing up front, but it seemed like the majority of the game he was playing as a midfielder. And then Calvert-Lewin was just there to just run, like up front by himself. And
Tom Davies was playing quite.
Yeah, Tom Davies. It seemed like it was more like Rooney would play sort of like as a floating striker, so he would be up front now and then, but he would be more midfield. And then Tom Davies would be like a free number 10, and then Calvert-Lewin would just be like leading the line up front, but not actually being a striker.
There's an argument to say that's how Rooney's goal came as well, when he sort of arrives late and gets on it. But go on.
Exactly, and then you then get players. You bring players on like Gylfi, Sigurdsson and Klassen, who have more fixed roles, because Sigurdsson isn't going to be a player that will float across like Tom Davies does, and Klassen is going to be the same. He's not going to float around. And then you suddenly have a team who are just structured in midfield. And the thing was, what I saw is those 2 players are normally played in the centre, and City were just hitting Everton down the wings all the time. And I'm thinking, I'm sure there were some players on the Everton bench, I don't know who else was on there, but surely there were some that they could have played on the wing to just stop City hitting them on the wings.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, Jack, that the reason I think it's strange is that Koeman's got Morales and Lookman on the bench. 2 players that, like, I think bringing one of Sigurdsson or Klassen on makes a lot of sense. Just to freshen up in the middle, have a little bit more of a creative output. I mean, Sigurdsson's obviously very good at set pieces. That's probably a decent option. But would you have brought on maybe one of Morales or Lookman to give them that outlet with Calvert-Lewin? Rooney's not the quickest anymore, so that doesn't make much sense.
I think the issue was that Everton, they were kind of in a catch-22 situation where they were struggling to have possession even though they had a man advantage. And as easy as it is to say, well, maybe they should have thrown up a faster man out wide, I feel like really they didn't look like scoring that much. I think they had 2 shots on target all game. Maybe they could have created more in hindsight, but it felt like City were quite measured in their attacks. You know, they weren't needlessly throwing players forward, and they kind of had their number figured out, I feel like, in the middle. So, I don't know. It's one of those ones where I feel like if Everton win this game 1-0, we just don't really question it.
Yeah.
And by the circumstance of the fact that City did score in the last 10 minutes, suddenly that decision comes under massive scrutiny. I don't know. I feel like it's easier to criticise in hindsight, perhaps.
Yeah. Kino, who do you think the happier manager will be after the end of this game?
Well, Koeman, because Everton, despite leading for much of the game, picked up a point away from home against one of the favourites for the title. I think Guardiola will be not just upset about the sending off. I think it will be mixed emotions really for him, because I think there are a lot of positives to take from this for City. That while they only managed to break through Everton once, who were playing very deep despite having an extra man, some of that play was good. It was a good finish from Sterling for the goal. And some of their new signings, I think in particular Danilo and Bernardo Silva, when they came on, looked really good. So there are positives for Guardiola to take. I think it's just a little bit worrying maybe for City fans that while the sending off was probably harsh, they've already dropped 2 points at home in the first game, and that was a feature of their campaign last year, and one of the reasons why they didn't. They arguably underachieved last year. That they were dropping a lot of points at home against teams that they maybe should be beating.
Yeah, Bournemouth seems to spring.
And they drew against Everton as well. Same result as last year. Yeah. So they'll hope that that's not a kind of a trend again.
I think City really not miss because we've not seen him yet, but Mendy. I think when Mendy comes back, City will be a slightly different animal because currently there were patches of the game today where Sané is playing left wing back, and you're not telling me you're signing Sané to put him in that position. To me, that's crazy, and you're not getting the best out of him. It's almost like Guardiola now is in a little situation where he's got too many of those types of players. Like he's got Sterling and Bernardo Silva on the bench, brings them both on, and he's not really got the other option. I guess a small positive for City is that if they're going to lose a man, then losing Kyle Walker and having Danilo ready and able is probably not going to hurt them too much. But I do think having Mendy as sort of the natural left wing back is something they are lacking at the moment, and I genuinely think we'll see a different City even when he's there as well to give them that balance. Overall, though, I think Everton will be pretty pleased with the away point. But as you say, I think Guardiola will feel hard done by.
He was very angry at the end of the game.
I think rightly so. Also, Schneidlin, we've not talked about it, but Schneidlin red card is not a red card.
It's equally as harsh, if not more so in an odd way.
Completely wins the ball. So it's a really good challenge, and Aguero makes a bit of it. It's quite a South American reaction, which might be a bit harsh on Aguero. But, late in the game, things are getting a little bit tense, and Aguero sees the opportunity and kind of takes it, I feel, which is a bit naughty from Sergio, in my opinion. Should we move on, boys? Anyone got anything to quickly say about City Everton, or should we move forward?
Everton going to finish ahead of City, confirmed.
Is that your prediction now? Second show in?
No. Okay. I will say, people weren't happy with my City outside the top 4 prediction.
No, they equally thought your Chelsea prediction was daft, but we'll talk about that now, Jack. Spurs 1 at Wembley Stadium. Chelsea, though, 2. In one, I dare say, and Chelsea fans might not like this, but based on what we're seeing pre-game, I think it's probably fair enough. One of the most surprising results of the weekend for me, to Chelsea to go to Spurs, and was it a smash and grab, Keno, or did they deserve the win?
Well, I think
bit of both.
I think it can be both a smash and grab and a deserved win, because the way that Chelsea did it would definitely fall into the smash and grab category, but. Judging on the way that they defended, in particular, throughout this entire game, you couldn't say they didn't deserve a result because, we sort of slightly disagreed on this. You were kind of a little bit underwhelmed by Spurs, but I actually thought the performance from Spurs would probably have been good enough to beat most other teams in the league. I just thought that on Sunday they came up against a defence and a sort of a system, particularly in the first half, set up by Conte, that was not only really well done tactically to sort of nullify their threats, and you said that Ali and Eriksen had a poor game. I think they were kind of maybe 7 out of 10. They weren't at their best. That sort of nullified them, and then also Chelsea were just willing to throw themselves in front of every shot and every run that Spurs tried to make. And so, they definitely deserved it for the amount of commitment they put into defending. I don't think many other teams could have done that in the Premier League. I think
my worry is that this will become a blueprint for other sides that go to Wembley now. That they'll think we can get a point here, and you never know, with a good set piece, much like we saw from Alonso, we might be able to nick it. I just think that the way in which Chelsea set up it's not a set up of a top 6 side. And most of the teams in the Premier League, as I say, they'll look at this and go, so that's what we have to do to stop Spurs from playing. You get people close and in around Dele Alli and Christian Eriksen. Yeah. And on Wembley, which is a big pitch, I think there was almost a little bit of a lack of width from Spurs. There was so many crosses coming. That sounds counterintuitive. There's so many crosses coming in. Not that many crosses of quality, though. Not many crosses finding a man in the middle, like finding Kane, maybe a late arriving Dele Alli. And that to me was the issue.
The crosses thing was interesting. I thought Trippier's usually so good at delivering the ball, kind of like Baines on the other side.
Yeah. Baines maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, maybe not now. He's an excellent crosser of the ball, but he was off his game a little bit in that regard, at least on Sunday. I thought there were a number of chances that he had where he either delayed too long or floated the ball in when he could have whipped it, and the placement was off. So that was one area I think that kind of Spurs were lacking in. I just think though that teams may think, okay, maybe we can get a result at Wembley, but I don't think many will have the players and the sort of discipline to execute it the way that Chelsea did. Another thing quickly before we throw it over, I think it kind of, while Spurs lost, I do think it sort of dispels the myth about Wembley for them, because there was no nerves in that performance. They weren't sort of, I don't think they kind of shirked out of playing. They took what, they kind of took to as much as they could to Chelsea, but it just wasn't enough on that occasion.
I guess that might again be a concern. Maybe not for the players, but for the fans. That might happen in quite a few games, and if they're not winning those games, then all of a sudden they're
more fans than players.
But I think the atmosphere. I think we see it around the country that the atmosphere of stadiums sometimes plays on the players. And there's a lot of expectation, a lot of pressure at Spurs this season. I think that might play a part. Jack, I'm going to come to you about Chelsea. But first, Proudie, obviously you think Spurs will be underwhelming this season. Is this one of the reasons why, a game like this, or do you see it elsewhere at home games that they'll struggle?
No, I think it's just seeing the bigger picture of it, because, if we just take this game, like I think they set up the right way. I don't think Spurs played badly. It was just, Chelsea just exploited their weakness and then beat them on that. It's just, you look at the Spurs team and their first choice 11 are probably one of the better teams in the league. But further on from that, like the players they were sending on, Sissoko, Janssen, well, Son excluded, but Sissoko and Janssen aren't going to change a game. And it's kind of worrying to see that those are the players, like they only seem to replace like for like. They don't have players that could change a game differently. And I think we've talked about this. Like they don't actually have an out and out winger.
Yeah. Do we still think that's going to be the key? Pochettino said he wants probably 2 or 3 now. He's obviously brought in Davison Santos. Is it Sanchez from Ajax? Obviously, that's another defender, a really good option for them. But is that the area in which they need reinforcements? I mean, I'll come back to you quickly. Do we still think, because I feel like you're, out of the 4 of us, you're probably the highest on Spurs over the couple of years. Whereas I think this year, me, Proudie and Jack are probably slightly more questioning of Spurs, whether they can actually do it. Jack, did you have Spurs in your top 4?
I'm trying to remember. I don't think I did, no.
Okay, so there you are there. But, I'm pretty sure you did have them in the top 4.
Yeah, I think they'll make 4th.
Yeah.
Again. They may not be as good as last year.
So do you still think that's going to be a key issue this season for them? They don't have this winger. Like, it sounds so easy to say, just put a winger in, it'll be fine. But there must be a player out there that can, as Proudie says, change a game when they need to.
They do have Lamela, who's been out injured for a long time.
That's like a storage syndrome, though, isn't it? It's like they've got a guy that could do it, but he's not there. So
remains to be seen whether he could.
They're in the Champions League. Like, they need someone.
We mentioned in the previews that that's the area that they look as though they need to strengthen, and I think that would be a really good signing because it would give them a different option. And while they brought Son on in that game on Sunday, I thought he actually played quite well, sort of forgetting a bit about Sissoko and Janssen, who he didn't really offer much. I thought Son actually did. And sort of, while he isn't even a proper, you would say, a kind of chalk on his heels winger, and he actually had an impact in those wide areas. And it does just make you wonder what would happen if they maybe did have a player who could sort of do what Trippier can do, but from a more forward position, beat men and get to the byline and pull it back for someone like Kane. Maybe just as another option. I don't know if they have to blow a lot of money on a player like that. It could be, I mean, with one of the signings that's being floated around in a different kind of area at the moment is City going in for Johnny Evans as a kind of defensive cover. It could almost be a sort of surprising signing for Spurs that not many people really thought of, but just a player who could come on and play that role if needed. I don't think they have to go and spend 30-40 million on like one of Europe's top-rated wingers.
Are you saying Andros Townsend should return, Kino? Is that what you're getting at?
You joke, but I actually think they might still go in for Zaha.
Yeah,
he's out injured at the moment, isn't he? So that might be a little hold up on it.
But that could be the kind of signing. I think that's a good point. That could be the kind of sign that I could see not only Levy allowing Pochettino to make, but also would be useful for them. We
said last year that we thought. I'm pretty sure we actually said that we thought Zaha was that kind of player is what they need. Some of the links there, being like Ross Barkley, which to me is.
Yeah,
bit of a funny one. I'm not sure it makes
cooled a little bit. I mean, that was going on for a lot of the early part of the summer, and it looks as though he'll stay and try and patch it up with Koeman.
The other one was Aurier.
He obviously wouldn't be the right player.
The other one was Aurier from PSG.
I think that's still being kind of strongly linked to happening.
Yeah. I did want to come to you on Chelsea though, Jack. Was there anyone that you thought stood out? Personally, I thought Louise was fantastic, playing a slightly more advanced role.
Well, I was going to say, he had the dilemma of the central midfielders, but actually I wanted to focus on someone who was brought into the side as a result of those injuries, and that was Christiansen. at centre-back. I thought he had a really good game. Obviously, he's been at Chelsea. I think he's been at Chelsea a few years now. I want to say he was out on loan last year. Obviously, he's come back. I have
no doubt he's had 4 loan spells. We'll look it up.
He's forced Zuma to go out on loan this year. So clearly, Conte fancies him.
He had 2 years at Mönchengladbach where he played 30 games in both. So he's clearly
he looked very experienced going into this game. You kind of wonder. When you see a Chelsea lineup like this, they're lacking a bit of steel, perhaps in the centre of the midfield. Obviously, Bakayoko was a late addition to the side because there was fears that he wasn't going to be able to play. He did play, but no, Christensen coming into the side really impressed me. And actually, I thought Chelsea's defensive resilience was impressive. And obviously, Chelsea, they've been pretty good defensively over the last years. But I feel like with all the changes, Rudiger obviously still fairly fresh into the team.
Got to mention Alonso as well.
Yeah, I was going to come on to Alonso because he was obviously he was the difference maker twice.
Criminally underrated, I think, by the league.
Well, the fact that he's such a late bloomer because obviously he was playing for Bolton, I think, when they were in the Prem at age 21.
Yeah,
and he was
there.
Go.
Was he there under? I think he was there under.
Mixon, probably.
Mixon, I mean, Jesus Christ.
Bolton. But no wonder he left.
Bolton thought he couldn't get much worse. I mean, crap into Bolton. Oh no! I think Mixon's going. That's what happens. You sack me. That's what happens. These things go on. Anyone else that you thought like Morata? I thought had a difficult game. That didn't have that much.
It was that sitter he missed right at the start. I think
the header.
That's going to knock his confidence.
Header. Yeah,
it's going to knock his confidence like so much, especially coming into a team with a high price tag like that. And you're going to have fans saying, "Oh, he should be putting that away for fun." It's like, well, he's got to get used to this style first. But in
fairness, it's a header from 5 yards out. Yeah. Like he should be putting it away, right? I'm pretty sure. Can you think Alonso's underrated?
I feel as though last season in particular, he was one of their most consistent players, and he's like Moses. I mean, the wing backs are vital to the Conte system, the way that he likes to play. Yeah. And it's an incredibly tough role being a wing-back for Antonio Conte. Wing-back's a tough position to play in general, but for a guy who demands so much of his players as Conte does, it's even more difficult. Yeah. And I think last season he did it absolutely wonderfully, played most of the matches. You don't hear anything out of him, and he just gets on with it. And not only, as you kind of expect with players that sort of keep their head down and work hard, he also has a lot of quality, as we saw this game. Yeah. And that ability to sort of break forward almost like a left attacking midfielder at times too. Perhaps Lloris should have done better with his second goal, but there was nothing he could do about the first goal, which was one of the best free kicks we'll see. Yeah,
lovely free kick. Superb. The only reason I ask is because I feel like Danny Rose just pipped him for Team of the Season last year. I thought he was in the conversation, but you never know. Right, boys, anything else we want to say on Spurs-Chelsea game?
I don't think so.
I was just going to say, why on earth are Chelsea trying to go after Alexandro? They keep bidding for him. Yeah, so...
Actually, one quick thing. Something like Christensen. On Sky Sports, for those that obviously have got Sky, have you seen the new the player pictures?
Oh yeah, I hate
Christensen has got the weirdest arms folded one you could ever have. I wonder if they're going to change them.
It's really bad. It's really bad what they've done now.
It's really awful Photoshop. It looks like
they've gone back to sort of the 1990s, where they couldn't animate the people. And I wasn't really a big fan of the sort of walk-on arms folded.
But when you see these new ones, the walk-ons were classy. The walk-ons look great.
They look far better than these things, and especially when because the one with Chelsea was really odd because they were playing like a 3-5-1-1, and so you had the first set of photos, which is obviously the three defenders. The back
it looks so dark. They all look like boy bands, Kino. That's my issue with it. Every time they walk out, it's like boy band pictures.
David Luiz was too big to fit in on this 5-man one on the screen, and you sort of had his head poking over the back of the photoshops in front, and then it was just Willian on his own afterwards. So it just looked really odd.
I will say just one more thing though. It's not related to the game, but it is related to Chelsea. The Costa situation.
Photos.
Oh yeah, Costa. We're not talking about the Costa situation at all.
No, I feel like that's worth talking about because he's got weird, to go, right? It?
He's got to go, but how can he go? It's so does he? I don't think anyone's told Costa Madrid can't sign anybody. That must be what it is.
It's the old Wingy situation, where he turned up outside the training ground on deadline day.
Costa would swim though. He's that sort of angry character that Costa would swim to Spain.
Apparently he's already in Madrid.
I read he was going to sign for Atletico and then go on loan to Deportivo, which I thought that's even weirder.
Well, the reason that he would do that is because he can't play for Atletico.
I know, but
January.
Deportivo.
Any
He could have gone anywhere. Like Deportivo.
I think
anywhere.
Proudie's put his cards on the table there. Not a fan of Deportivo.
Not a fan of Deportivo La Coruña.
No, what did you do? There was a Premier League team linked with Costa. Someone said, we'll take him. Might have been Everton, actually. I think Everton said, yeah, we'll have him. It's like, oh, good.
I saw on Sky Sports News a few days ago when they were doing a bit of I don't know why I was watching Sky Sports News at this time. It's like in the middle of the day. Obviously not. There wasn't a lot going on.
You could have watched it at any point over an 8-hour period. It would be the same rolling news coverage. But go on.
Well, no, this one was actually quite... They were interviewing an agent who, for the life of me, I can't remember the name of, and he was saying if Costa was my player, I'd be telling him, why are you refusing to at least come and train with Chelsea?
Yeah.
Because even if he wants a move... Maybe, he'll be training on his own in Brazil. It's Diego Costa, so it's kind of unlikely. But players do that at times when they're kind of iced out of a side. If you want to move, you need to be in tip-top form, and he doesn't seem to want to do that. So it's kind of a weird situation.
Don't you feel like Costa's decided, well, if I show that I really want to be there, that will be enough? Simeone, and I don't know if Simeone's the kind of manager that will go, he just really wants to play for us. There's so much passion from him.
Yeah, I think it's the wrong manager to try and do that with as well.
I know Simeone seems keen, though, but it's like, no, what? It's like if Atletico haven't put a bid in because they really can't. Costa's desperate to go, but nothing's been agreed, and now he's just
doesn't want to train,
just made camp in Spain. I might go sit outside sort of Liverpool at Anfield and just sort of go, well, I'd like to sign for Liverpool.
I might get in touch with Costa and ask if I can use his house in London while he's away.
Genuinely thought you would go to there, Kino. I go stand outside Villa Park. You might have a chance. I thought, actually, Kino, you may well have a chance of getting in there.
Do that as well. Yeah, he could come on loan at us for 6 months.
You and Big John. Right then, that's going to wrap up our coverage of the first two games. We'll be talking about some more Premier League action after this little break.
Hello folks, hopefully you are enjoying the podcast. Of course, we are available on iTunes. If you watch this on YouTube, the podcast go up on iTunes first. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you leave a rating. There's a chance it'll be read out at the end of the show. And don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, listeners. Right, 3 more games we're going to cover in a little bit of detail. We'll start things off at the... I'm in a very good mood. Liverpool won this weekend. We're not even talking about it. Swansea 0, Manchester United 4. And this is the first time, Proudie, we've seen Manchester United look a little bit like the Manchester United of old. I know they did it against West Ham, but this one was there was that 10-minute period where it was utterly terrifying for everyone in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think a little bit, a lot of people are saying, oh, United are going to be back in their old, but I think you have to look that Swansea was still pretty much in the game when it was 1-0, and I think they started to throw more players forwards. And then they left themselves open at the back for United to counter-attack. So I think the scoreline was a bit harsh on Swansea, like in the context of things. But if you look at United, I mean, their squad depth is scarily good. Like the fact that they could bring
Scarily
Martial...
good. Proudie's brought out the scarily good, Jack. How do you feel about that, Jack?
He basically is Jack.
Yeah.
I'll leave. See you later, boys. It's been a good run.
On your trip around Europe, Proudie, did you just listen to ForTheFans podcasts from last season?
Didn't I? So...
Did you actually? Oh, no. So he's got all the Jack-isms.
I want to be a part of it still.
Oh, no. Okay. Sorry, go on.
But the fact they can bring Martial off the bench, like, it shows you how good the team must be that they've already put out. And I mean, Pogba, like a lot of people predicted when Matic signed, Pogba was get this free role, and he suddenly is doing that. Although he was probably lucky to still be on the pitch. I thought after his first yellow card, I mean, he started diving into tackles all of a sudden, and the referee just allowed him off. So if he had been sent off, I mean, we could have been talking about a completely different result. But Lukaku once again wasn't really much into the game, but he got his chance and he scored.
That's what he does, though, isn't it?
I think that's what is. Yeah, I think I said at the start of the season that he could potentially be one of the worst signs of the season. I'm hoping I don't regret that.
Well, now you picked for top goal scorer. I think Proudie was influenced, listeners. I'm just saying that Proudie's been influenced by the opening 2 games.
I just quickly on what Proudie mentioned at the beginning of that about Swansea sort of opening up a little bit and allowing the sort of
onslaught
United to attack a bit more. Yeah, it reminded me a little bit of what Craig Shakespeare did at the Emirates, where he brought on, I forget who it was.
He brought on Ian Atcher and took Matty James off, and it was a bit like, why exactly did you do that?
And Clement took off Carl Bartley, obviously defender, brought on Wayne Routledge.
Yeah, Bartley was having a really good game as well. That was so weird.
He was, and then he also put Narsing on as well. So he made 2 attacking changes coming up to 70 minutes, sort of, and it looked as though like that was when they were able to get into the game, and it was kind of 2 similar result similar results really for both teams in that.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, right, if you're a Swansea fan, you probably want to see your coach make 2 attacking changes and try and get something from the game. So on that side, you want to see it. When it's suddenly 4-0, though, you left there sitting... left there thinking, was that a good idea? Well, also
there is something to be said for staying in the game as well, and
and trying to nick one from a set piece or something. Like you never know, do you? Yeah. I will say that I thought up until the point in which those changes were made, Swansea first half I thought were pretty good. I quite like the AU Abraham thing they've got going up top. I thought that actually worked
as well.
That looked quite good. I think in the middle they look good. Tom Carroll I think is going to be really important this year. I think I had a decent game too. Again, it was just that sort of 6-minute period, Proudie, where they're just too good. And, I mean, I've tipped Mkhitaryan for top assists this season. Do we think I've got a good shout there?
Well,
I'm confident.
It depends if he plays that often.
He's got 3 or 4 already, I think. he's got 4, Mkhitaryan already.
Like, you think about the wingers they've already got. Like, Mourinho's clearly going to chop and change now and then. Like, he'll put Mata on the wing, or Mata as number 10, and he's got, like, Rashford and Martial and Lingard to play on the wing. So Mkhitaryan's also got that competition. And it depends if they do sign this right midfielder that apparently they've been wanting to sign all window, like Perisic or...
Yeah.
So,
well, there's also left wingers been the talk this week, I think, that they want a left winger, like a natural left winger, because Mkhitaryan can obviously play out on that right-hand side.
I worry for Marcus Rashford.
Well, I was going to come to Jack on that. Jack, do you think Rashford... I feel like this is a massive season for Marcus Rashford. A bit of a make-or-break year for him.
Cup, yeah.
Sorry. I've said make or break there. He's very young. It's not going to be make or break. But I think in the context of a Manchester United player, is he going to be another Welbeck that he's moved on? Admittedly, a decent move to Arsenal, but we've seen it happen before.
I just don't understand the rationale behind not loaning him out if he's just not going to play regularly, because there are probably 14 teams in the Premier League who would bite your hand off to have him in their teams.
It's a good point.
Where do we think he'd be a good fit? It's a good question, actually. I don't think for a second think this is going to happen, but it's a good conversation. Is he the sort of player that maybe Spurs should be looking at? I mean, United probably wouldn't loan to Spurs, right? That seems a bit counterproductive. But is there
someone like Southampton, maybe?
Yeah, Southampton maybe before they signed Iheanacho. Leicester might have been quite a good fit.
Leicester.
Yeah. Proper mental happened in my FM save, Newcastle.
Yeah, I think there's a point now where Marcus should probably wouldn't want to go to Newcastle. There's not when you think about it, actually, there's not too many teams
Watford
where he'd fit in now. But do you think he'd go to Watford? No. I feel like I think top half teams are kind of where he's looking now. I mean, maybe Everton, but if that was going to happen, you think it might have been part of like the Lukaku deal or something. Obviously, Rooney went anyway. I don't know. I'm sure there's Manchester United fans thinking, "What are you talking about? We need the depth. We need to keep him." And I'm sure you're right, but from an England perspective, you want to see him playing. You want to see him having a chance to score.
World Cup year as well.
Yeah, and I think the more we see, I genuinely think at this stage in both their careers, Martial is slightly better, more direct, more clinical option than Rashford in this Manchester United team.
He's got a few years on Rashford as well, to be fair.
Not that many, but I know what you're saying. I just think that he's ahead of him in the pecking order. There's Lukaku there, there's Martial. Ibra's probably going to sign back. Like, I think that's the big thing for me. Do you think Ibra coming back, Jack's a good idea?
I mean, it can't hurt them, I guess. It's not like it's a financial thing. I've seen the rumours. I don't think it's happenstance. I've been living under a rock. I think it probably will end up happening, to be honest. Yeah. I saw a video on Twitter of him kickboxing this week. So
well, yeah, have you seen the Eric Bailly reply to that tweet?
No.
Where everybody kicks him in like the thigh and then runs off looking absolutely terrified as Ibra chases him down.
I think it wouldn't necessarily be a bad move. I don't think he'd expect to play as he did last year.
Yeah, different dynamic now.
And as long as Mourinho could sort of get that almost reassurance of Ibrahimovic that he wouldn't kick off when he doesn't play, and he's happy to be almost like a sort of semi kind of coaching role, if you know.
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise you if they sign him and he leaves in like February to go play in MLS.
No, that won't happen.
I think he'll go back to Malmo.
No, none of these. Well, maybe at the end of the season, but I think he'll definitely stay. So I think Zlatan Ibrahimovic really wants to be able to say he's won the Premier League, and I think this is the year that he thinks, especially with him in the side, Manchester United win the Premier League, because then Zlatan will have been to Italy, France, Spain, and England, and won the league in every single league in every single country, if I'm not mistaken.
Fantastic record, and they don't really have.
And I think he's got a bit of an ego, Zlatan. I'm just sort of putting that out there.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
Are you sure about that?
I think there's a chance that the ego of Zlatan Ibrahimovic will think, I really want to win a league title because it will look good if I do that.
if you look at Man United's bench as well against Swansea, the only two sort of recognised forwards they had on there was Martial and Lingard. So they don't really have a like-for-like swap for Lukaku if, he's not playing well or he gets injured or it's not
How much are bringing
working.
Zlatan off the break? Hang on, Fellaini, though,
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah. Interesting. Just very quickly, interesting that Phil Jones is getting the start ahead of Lindelof and Chris Smalling.
Well,
we talk about big years for Rashford, equally big year for a player like Phil Jones, who will want to be in contention for coming into the year.
Mourinho really likes Phil Jones. He said it with regards to Lindelof that he's slowly going to bed him in. And so
John Terry,
I'll hold up my hand here and say that my fantasy football, I've taken out Lindelof and put in Jones.
I noticed, yeah.
So that was the move I made.
Right, speaking of England hopefuls, we will go over to Huddersfield, Newcastle. Obviously, John Joe Shelby probably won't be on the plane, so maybe not an England hopeful, and missed the game against Newcastle. And Newcastle, folks, arguably paid for it. It was away at Huddersfield. And the newly promoted side, I mean, I've got to say, folks, I do love this. I've taken 6 points from them up in 2 games. There are only 3 teams have done that so far. The esteemed Manchester United, Huddersfield and West Brom are the teams to do it. Hashtag WBA will be featuring a little bit later on. I'm looking forward to it.
Only one team has won their first 3 Premier League games as a newly promoted side, and that was Coventry.
Lovely little stat. I mean, I'm going to clap the stat.
That's what Huddersfield are going for next week. I was really impressed with Huddersfield in this game. Not so much by the quality of the football, if I'm being honest. It kind of felt like a championship game.
It was a bit drab at times.
It was made by the moment of quality by Moy. And, it was a great strike. I mean, I assume we all saw it.
Lovely move as well.
Lovely move, lovely finish. Do we think he's got a little chance, Jack? He's Australian, isn't he? He's not even.
He is a little chance. I mean, I'd love him to play for England.
Do you know what I've done now? I've done a Harry Redknapp.
You have.
I just assume that a player transferring from City, that's really weird.
Well, it's a Sydney FC type deal.
I know, but he was at City.
From Melbourne.
That is a shocker for me. But at the same time, this is a bit mad because he's 26.
Sydney. Hold on. Which is the Manchester City?
He's 26.
Aussie club.
Yeah, it's Melbourne City. He's 26. He played quite a lot against Melbourne. This is why I think that's why I figured he was English, but he's not English at all.
He started at Bolton. He went to St Mirren.
He made his debut at St Mirren. Aaron Moy has got one of the most fascinating. He was born in Sydney. He's 26 years old. Middle name Frank. I mean, I'm what a confusing man.
Well, the thing I didn't know a lot about him. I watched a little bit of Championship football, and he always looked like one of their better players. And obviously, it was considered quite a good signing when they managed to sign him permanently. He didn't score that many goals last year. I think he got 4 or 5, and he was their player of the year. And I think that often speaks volumes when a central midfielder is your player of the year without really contributing a whole lot kind of goal scoring wise. Like they're just going to put in 110% and be a difference maker. Yeah. And I think in a game devoid of a lot of quality, he was the player. Of course, even leading up to the goal, obviously it was a cheeky 1-2 before like a bent-in shot from range. But the actual initial pass, obviously Fred him then back through, he kind of dropped his shoulders a little bit just through the entire Newcastle side off the wrong way, and that created that opportunity for the initial pass that he put in. And I think Matt Ritchie had a fairly good chance. That was probably was like the only real. I mean, the issue with this game was it was a game where neither team really created a lot. The difference was ultimately a moment of brilliance, and it was a fantastic goal. I think Huddersfield, obviously, they're not going to complain one little bit. I imagine for Newcastle fans, they're going to be looking at the bank balance and the fact there's loads of money sat there, or at least you hope there is, and nobody's being signed, and they're sat on 0 points, and the manager's not that happy.
I'm going to throw out there, boys. Are Newcastle just a bit shit?
Well, I was about to say...
I've dropped the first swear of the show there quite late on, but I mean, are they just a bit rubbish?
Well, on Match of the Day after this game, all the talk about this loss for Newcastle was about what was going on upstairs and transfers. I think in this match, a lot more questions should have been asked about the system that Benitez went with, his tactics in the game, and just the way that he set up. I don't think that while, yes, there were different players on the pitch, better players, maybe they would have done better, but it was a failure of a tactical failure as much as it was, just personnel. And I kind of agree with you. I just think that it's clear, obviously, Newcastle finished a number of points above Huddersfield in the Championship last year. Obviously, kind of Huddersfield took their foot off the gas towards the end.
Yeah.
But while they outperformed them in the Championship, it looks as though over the summer, it was quite an interesting match, actually, this fixture, because you could kind of get a really good gauge on who really improved for the Premier League. And it looks as though Newcastle have basically stayed at the same level, whereas Huddersfield have gone the other way.
Yeah, it's interesting.
They deserve a lot of credit for it.
Yeah, last season, Huddersfield beat Newcastle at St James's, and then the reverse fixture, Newcastle beat Huddersfield. So you do wonder if Rodner took something from that, because the squads, especially on the Newcastle side, isn't, as I said, no, not spent that much money. They're not that different. Who can Newcastle rely on in their side to be a difference maker? Is there anyone that's kind of what I'm judging them on? Is that you look at the Huddersfield team, and I think actually with the signing of Moy, they're expecting him to have a really good season. Mooney as well up front. I think there's a bit of expectation on these two guys that they're going to be the guys you can kind of trust. Can I just say, by the way, Jorgensen in the Huddersfield side, I did the Michelin defender. Remember I sort of picked him up.
He didn't play for Michelin, did he?
Didn't he play for Michelin? Oh, is it Copenhagen?
I can't remember.
I thought Tom Ince was good as well for Huddersfield. Had a good game.
I got for the wrong Jorgensen. No, I haven't. You've completely thrown me here, Jack.
No, it is the right
one.
Yeah.
You lied about something. Someone pulled you up on a fact after last week's show that we
No, I didn't mention it last week, so that's not true. But I'll take it. I've been thrown. What I'm getting at is there anyone in the Newcastle side that can be relied upon? Is Matt Ritchie their best player and the person they're going to be expecting to keep them up? Because I don't necessarily think that's enough.
No.
Proudie, is there anyone?
No, I was going to say like
no
the
one.
players they've brought in.
No one.
Yeah.
The Josh Murphy signing makes less and less sense. Sorry, Jacob. They should have signed Josh. I actually think Josh is better.
Josh played really well against the Villa at the weekend. It wasn't enough for Norwich to win.
No,
he played well.
I don't get the Joselu signing at all.
No, that is an odd one, and it sort of smacks of like Albert Luque's at the past for Newcastle, because he's a really unprolific striker. He's had a horrible time at Stoke.
Who's the one that began with X Cisco, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Cisco,
I think at some point we're going to see Mitrovic, and that's going to be like, come on, Mitrovic, it's all on you again. Remember 2 years ago when it was all on you, and it didn't come back out. I do fear for them,
because there are some proven Premier League performers in there, like Diarmi has sort of played in the league for quite some time, done pretty well.
Aside from that, though, there's not that many, really.
I think Kieran Clark, Atsu.
I think what we'll say
and arguably Dwight Gale as well.
What we'll say on Newcastle, right? If it's any other team that comes up, you look at that starting 11 and you go, that's not really that good. You put the Newcastle name on top and everyone thinks, yeah, they'll be fine. Like, you take away that Newcastle name and you put someone else there, and you just look at the squad for what it is. It's not, for me, it's just not that good. And I didn't predict them to go down, I don't believe. But I'm starting to have second thoughts already. We're very early in. It's just not a great deal of quality, and it's going to be up to Ashley, isn't it, whether he has to bring somebody else in. Anyone else want to say anything on Newcastle Huddersfield before we move on?
No.
I hope that you can sign some players.
Well, yeah, they're going to need to. There's still a little time left. Right then, finally, before we sort of whiz through the rest of the fixtures, we're going to go to the Britannia Stadium. It's not called the Britannia, actually, is it? It's Bet365.
Britannia.
Is it still? Are we still going with Britannia?
Let's call it the Britannia.
Okay, the Britannia Stadium. Stoke 1, Arsenal 0. And after
I hate the sponsored names on stadiums.
Yeah, so do I.
So.
I really expected Arsenal to win this game, but Ryan Shawcross, Jack, and you know, you've bigged him up. He's had a good performance. Pleased with that?
Delighted.
Sticking with your England prediction?
Yes,
okay,
100%. I will say I think Jack Butland was the difference maker at the back for Stoke.
That's probably fair enough.
They did get a little bit of luck as well with the penalty decision that, wasn't given as a penalty. Definitely was one.
For Arsenal, though, Kino, this is, I mean, we're talking about their top four hopes. This is a very early setback in a game which they should be winning.
They have an awful record historically at Stoke away. I think they've won 1 in 8 now away from home against Stoke.
Yeah, not good.
The stats weren't in their favour, and it's kind of a game that I think everyone sort of inherently thinks that Arsenal struggle, sort of imagining the Stoke City team of the past in their minds, you know. That's not the same team that they have now, but they kind of wound back the years a little bit in the way that they sort of pressured and got at Arsenal in a slightly different way to the way that a Tony Pulis team used to do. But I thought they made it really difficult for them. having said that, and of course, it was really good to see Hesse, who, I mean, arguably one of the surprise signings of the summer, I think.
Yeah.
If you look at where he's
Football
gone.
Manager fans will know that Stoke's team just looks like the players that have been transfer listed. Like the players that have been transfer listed, and you can get, because they're transfer listed, at just random clubs. She's promoting Hesse, Shaqiri's there as well.
Really,
it's just like all these players that
it's like they've looked at some wonder kids in like FM 11 and then fast forwarded 6 years ago. I'm like, those are the players we should sign because they ended up as in Football Manager.
The best player is that they've now got Zuma on loan as well, which makes it even better. Martin Zindi's in there as well. That's actually very. That's probably a better analogy.
Oh yeah, and Shaqiri, Hesse.
Yeah, the whole team looks a little bit like that.
Mame Baramji.
Where, or maybe. Where do we think the problems are for Arsenal and Keane? We saw last week they conceded 3 against Leicester. It wasn't a similar game because Arsenal had a lot of the ball.
Yeah, and I thought they were actually quite unlucky. You could argue that the Lacazette goal, which was ruled out, wasn't really offside, and if it was such a small margin.
He couldn't have spotted that, could he?
No, exactly. There's no way that the linesman could have spotted that, and so maybe they were unlucky to have that. Possibly should have had a penalty as well when Bellerin was fouled by Juve, I thought. And they were quite hard done by to not get those. It's still a bad loss, really, for them. And I think the way that Stoke had operated over the summer and their kind of shoddy start and obviously last season, you'd have maybe backed Arsenal to get a result here and sort of buck the trend a little bit in their results. But it didn't happen. And as I was about to say, I was really pleased to see Hesse get a goal because the guy's won a Champions League, scored in the Classico. It's not what's out of him at PSG. But maybe, he can, if he has a really good year, he can sort of rebuild his career, maybe get a move up, either move upwards in the Premier League or back onto the continent. So I think he'll be an exciting one to watch this year. Yeah. I hope he doesn't go the way of Shaqiri at Stoke, who's sort of very streaky in the way that his form works.
You feel like because it's a loan deal, even if it doesn't quite work out, some team in Europe, some sort of relatively decent side is going to take a punt on him because of where he's been and what he's achieved elsewhere.
I hate to use the word cringy. Did any of you see the announcement that Stoke gave for signing Hesse? Where they took loads of clips on like Talk Sport and all this other stuff saying they lacked ambition, and then they announced a player on loan.
Yeah,
it felt a little bit weird. It's just like, I don't know.
Teams are getting increasingly creative with announcing their transfers. Some of I like the effort that they're going to, but it is quite a hit and miss at times. They do. We did a WhatsApp. Did you see the one that we did?
The WhatsApp one was good.
I mean, it was good, sort of. I mean, it was good because they were the only people. If someone else does it now, it's going to be horrible. It's going to be awful. But it was good as it was. I do think for Arsenal though, and Kin, I'm actually going to draw about something you said. I think it was the preview shows, and I think it was a really good point, and I think it's a point that would be echoed by Arsenal fans. Maybe listen to this. Certainly watching the game at the weekend, is that it doesn't matter what happens at Arsenal. I don't think Arsene Wenger has changed in 4 months. Which is what you said. And I thought that was a really telling quote. And I feel like Arsenal fans are already feeding. I mean, I watched Arsenal fan TV. It was great Saturday night viewing. They feel like that already. Like, they already feel like it's the same thing. There's not been enough change. Lacazette's not, and Kolasinac not enough to change an entire team. Xhaka came in for a lot of criticism, I thought, from Arsenal fans. Don't think they've seen performances out of him that they expect.
He actually came in for a lot of criticism from Wenger himself as well, which is quite rare. You don't normally see him call out a player by person, but in his post-game, he specifically named Xhaka, which I thought was quite hard.
Yeah, so there's quite a few clubs now that we think need to make changes, or signings at least, and I don't think Arsenal will. I don't
think signings are the answer for Arsenal. As I've said along, I think Wenger.
You don't think there's like a player or a position that could be strengthening? Because I think centre back is. I mean, at the moment, Monreal is playing at centre back.
Okay,
and they just sold Gabriel.
Maybe say
they just sold Gabriel.
Yeah. So based on that, surely they are bringing someone in.
Yeah, I think, okay, fine. You could make the case to sign a player to cover a gap in the team, but I think in terms of changing the sort of course of Arsenal's season, I think it is from the top down and coaching, not a kind of, we need to sign this player and spunk a load of money on players to try and almost just overcome teams with quality. I think the problem is systemic, and that comes from Wenger, as I've kind of said for quite a while.
Jack, Sanchez, still think he's staying?
I do.
You still think we're not seeing him yet, though?
I know. I think he's just hiding.
I think that
away.
Actually might help, though. That may almost be good. I feel like if he plays
hide him away
really well,
hide him away, literally hiding him so he doesn't leave.
I think Wenger's just lying to everyone saying he's injured. anyone texts in like, "Can we put in a bed for it? Let's out for 9 months." Mate.
What none of you are taking into account is that Richard Keys has announced that he thinks Alex Sanchez will be going to Manchester City, everyone.
Well, where would he fit?
Famous in the
Well,
know.
Proudie, I'm not worried about that. Richard Keys has said this is happening.
Okay.
And who are we to argue? For
see that.
those that are hearing the name Richard Keys and aren't fully understanding who I'm on about, Richard Keys is the guy that was a bit of a knob on Sky Sports with Andy Gray. That's
He's a massive knob.
yeah. It was a
Yeah, I was
massive
going to say
knob.
a bit was a bit.
No, because he'd quite
Understand.
enjoy being called a massive knob. I think if you call him a mediocre knob, he's going to be more offended by that.
A
so.
very,
We'll
very
go mediocre
small
knob, shall we?
knob. Very, very small.
Anyway, Jack, speaking of mediocre knobs, anything else you want to say about this game before we move on?
Just delighted for Shawcross. Well played, mate.
Oh my
Get him on the plane.
I can't wait for 10 years' time when Jack is a football agent and the players in which he's got are just players he's bigged up who are sort of late 30s and he's continuing to push for starts in national teams and Premier League teams. Oh, I'm looking forward to it. All right, then. What we'll do is we'll run through the rest of the games that happened at the weekend. We'll kick things off with... Oh, where do we go? Bournemouth lost 2-0 to Watford. Proudie, you're tipping Watford, so we'll come to you on this. Yeah, I guess you're relatively impressed with what Watford have done. Of course, you lived in Bournemouth, so didn't you? So you got... This was a Proudie match in many ways.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, as I said, they got a really good team this year.
Who do you think the star is? Because obviously we didn't see you last week when they got a good draw against Liverpool. Anyone? Carlison, are you impressed by him?
Yeah, he seems like a good player, doesn't he?
He looked impressive when he came on against Liverpool.
Quite rangy,
I thought.
quite
Yeah, not the
gangly
kind of player
almost.
you expect.
He got a goal and an assist in this game, didn't he? So he really was the difference maker for them.
I think he will. He's going to be interesting signing. It's maybe interesting to see if he stays for longer than a season. I always find players that come from sort of Brazil are a bit like that.
It's quite interesting.
Maybe this is harsh, but I've got a bit of the Tevez Mascherano vibe around it.
What? Transfer bungs?
In which case, we'll get him, Jack.
Can you
We've
smell
got a
that?
chance of getting him in. I'm excited about that.
I thought, just on Richarlison though, it's kind of funny. I think people sort of imagine like Brazilians sort of coming over, especially sort of young ones. He's 20, doesn't look 20 by the way, but I think people have a kind of idea that they're sort of going to be, samba like skillful players. It's interesting. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Gabriel Jesus at City in the sense that they're both quite sort of unconventional, quite well built for the Premier League in the way that they sort of move and their skill set. So I think it's a pretty good signing for Watford. And yeah, I'm quite excited to see what he can do because he looks like he's quite well suited to English football.
I think we're all quite excited to see what he does. Just a name like Richarlison in the Premier League, just quite like that, to be honest. Burnley 0. I think this is a bump back down to earth for Burnley, isn't it? They beat Chelsea and they get beat 1-0 by West Brom, and it's just a bit like, oh dear, what's going on here? Robson Kanu got the goal, Jack, and then got sent off. This is another player you're a fan of.
I am. I love Robson. Where's number 4 as a striker? That's a.
You've decided to call him Robson.
I can call him Carney.
You've gone in for Robson.
Sorry, I can call him Rob if you like. It's a bit more informal.
Whatever, yeah.
But scored and got sent off. Interesting game.
Deserve sending off, do we think?
Never. It was like the Walker one, really. If anything, Robson kind of deserves to be sent off more than the Walker one. Because he's led with his arm, like it's a yellow card, but it's not a la Arnautovic where he's decided he wants to snap someone's neck in half with his forearm.
Jack, you made the point as well, just quickly, that Hegazi has been put into a lot of fantasy teams, and he looks like a bit of a unit.
He's gone up 0.2 million in 2 weeks.
God, I mean, that's not bad, is it? That's good for any
price
player.
riser.
Anyone want a hashtag WBA?
I mean, of course, I've got a few ready, but I'll let you take it away.
We can't sell Johnny Evans to a title rival, surely. Hashtag WBA.
People are that's funny, isn't it? The Johnny Evans thing. West Brom fans are not happy, not only with the interest of Manchester City, but the possibility that he could actually go. Do we think that's we talked about it very briefly earlier on. Do you think that's a good signing for City, by the way?
I mean, it's a step down for Evans, go from West Brom in second, so
it's a bit of a strange one. I think with hashtag WBA, what I'm finding out, Kino, because I've now got the hashtag on my tweet deck. I'm not addicted to it. They are very split on absolutely everything.
Well, they've quietened down a little bit with 2 decent results. Like as we said, when we checked them out before the beginning of the season, they weren't happy at all. But now they seem to be less sort of shouty. I'm sure that will all
in
change.
some ways, I'm a little bit disappointed with the fact they've won twice. You know, if they draw one, then there's a bit more of a debate to be had.
Well, no, because at the end of the season, when they've not won in 9, hashtag WBA is going to be an absolute treat.
It will be,
so,
yes.
I mean, right now, I think we're kind of hashtag WBA is warm. But it's good. I just like there's just occasionally people tweet things like, "For God's sake, sign some players." Hashtag WBA.
Oh yeah, I've seen one guy is feeling particularly pessimistic. I've seen the future again. Wimmer goes to Stoke. We lose Evans. Gibson stays at Middlesbrough, and Dawson gets injured.
Yeah, you might think that with West Brom winning their first 2 games, they'd be optimistic. Anyone else worried about the opening 2 results of people over cracks of recruitment? Why are we no longer being linked to ... anyone? Hashtag WBA. Not happy. They've won 2 games in the Premier League back to back. Not happy. I love it. I don't know if
we will return.
If we did hashtag Huddersfield, I bet they're not as downbeat as the West Brom fans. Just quickly then, Leicester 2, Brighton 0. I am increasingly worried for Brighton. They might, I predicted Sunderland. Was it Sunderland last year? Who did I predict last year to get no points?
Hull.
Brighton are my new Hull.
Can I just say, Hull must be, if you're a Hull fan, you must be pissed off because now they're selling Klukas to Swansea for 15 million.
Yeah,
after they've said they're going to stop selling players.
Disappointing. Good signing for Swansea, disappointing for Hull. But no, Leicester beat them 2-0. Brighton, I just think they're in big trouble. What I will say, though, a little bit under the radar, I think Harry Maguire might go down as one of the signings of the season. I know he got a goal in this game, but I thought he actually looked pretty... We mentioned it in the Arsenal game. He just looks really competent. I know that's a silly thing to say about a footballer, but I just there's something about him. There's a calmness about him, and he's good on the ball. I think it was highlighted on Match of the Day. Actually, he might be one of the secret signings of the season.
He's one of those players who's got regular first team football from a young age. He started off at Sheffield United, and rather than go, right? I imagine he's one of those players who could have played.
Not Celtic, different person.
I feel like he's one of those players who could have played for a really, really, he could have played in the under-23s of a Premier League team. And instead, he kind of went through with Sheffield United, played regular football there, moved up to the Championship, and he's kind of made this nice progression. And there's just a degree of experience about him. I think he's 24 now. I mean, talking more now, correct me, tell me he's 27.
24 is right.
But he just looks like a player, who's been playing for such a long time, but doesn't kind of look out of his depth. And I'll be honest, when I saw the transfer fee that they were paying, I thought it was a little bit mental. But so far, I mean, it's a bit early to judge. Perhaps he's just looking like a really good signing. Yeah,
it was 12 million initially, rising to 17 with some add-ons in there. Now we're going to come to the scarily good Crystal Palace. Liverpool get a 1-0 lead. Paddy, what do you think of Liverpool? We didn't talk about them in your predictions. Did you have them 4th, Liverpool, by the way?
Yes. Yeah, I had 4th. Yeah.
So you think they'll get into the top 4? Good win against Palace, Mane with the goal. The whole Coutinho thing's interesting. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what do you make of Liverpool this season then?
No, I think it's the reason I got you to finish in 4th. I think you're going to finally get those wins over the teams that you didn't beat last year, like the games which you got stuck in at home and away. I mean, put aside the Watford result, I mean, you were leading in injury time, which is probably a first. Like, you lost the lead.
Should have won it, Yeah, should have won it.
But no, I think this is Champions League. You'll probably go through against Hoffenheim fairly easily. Get some players in because of that, and then build a strong team, and then have a good season. I think, but
I do wonder how many players are waiting to see if Liverpool get past Hoffenheim. That will be interesting. Let's talk about just to clarify, Kino and Proudie, have you seen the Coutinho Barcelona thing that's happened in the last day or so? It is absolutely hilarious what Barcelona did. Kino, have you seen this?
No.
Okay, so Barcelona, who have been pursuing Philippe Coutinho, put in a bid of 117, I think it was, maybe a bit more than that, and they basically said, right then, Liverpool, we can see you being very awkward, so you have until Sunday to accept that bid, or we're going to withdraw our interest. So Liverpool went, okay, and now they've withdrawn their interest.
And I believe they just didn't respond with a no or a yes, they just waited it out.
I guess it's like on the phone going, they'll ring. Shit. And I just like the idea of it. But, I mean, what a strange tactic. Though, Jack, don't necessarily think that this is over yet.
No, I was about to say, I feel like Coutinho's head might have been tilted. And I feel like
if it will.
I mean, it's going to be a real test of him as a professional, I think, how he responds to this if he does stay at Liverpool. Because he's not really a player who's been... what do you call it? He's never really been in one of these situations.
He's very well liked. He's very well. I think that's the big quandary for Liverpool fans is that, well, we can all understand Barcelona is a team you'd want to play for, maybe not in their current state though, don't sign a contract 6 months ago if you want to go. And I think that's the problem. And then to announce you wanting to leave and you want to be on the transfer list and whatnot, it's just a bit like, no, not now, now. It's too late.
Barca are in a bit of a situation, aren't they? Because they've tried to get Dembele. That doesn't look like it's going to happen.
I think that looks more increasing like it will happen. Dembele now. Which does sort of stem the sides.
Did you hear about Dembele? So he fled Germany to go to France.
This is Costa-esque. Him and Costa are on sort of mission.
So this is great. He left, but he smashed up his flat. Does anyone know who his landlord is?
I do know who his landlord is. Before I reveal who it is, Kino or Proudie, do you know who his landlord is? His landlord is Jurgen Klopp, which is just
of course it is. That was a guess, but of course it is.
Which is quite funny.
So at least Coutinho hasn't done that yet, but they've also been linked with, is it Seri of Nice?
Yeah,
Klopp will be telling Coutinho not to try anything like that, even though he wants to leave. He'll be like, Do you know
what? This was a complete ruimor. There was a little talk, I don't know how I feel about this, that Coutinho met with Guardiola to discuss Barcelona. I don't know if there's any hint of truth to that, but just the idea of it made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Just want to put that out there. But no, you're right, Jack. Sonny from Nice, 40 million. It's interesting. Liverpool were linked with him, and then Xavi picked him up, and now he looks like he might go to Barca.
That deal looks like it might fall through. Nice have turned around and said, because there was rumours that there was a release clause in the contract. It turns out there isn't a release clause in his contract.
What? They announced there was.
And Nice have gone, hang on a minute, you're Barcelona, you've just had 180 million euros. We'll have a bit more, please. So that one's on the rock. That one's on the rocks as well. So
I love the idea of Barca offering 42 million and Nice go, 42 million, yeah, that's his release. Barcelona? No, I don't think so. Change that 4 to a 7 and then we'll just send that back. There you are, 74 million is or something daft like that. So yeah, that doesn't look like it's going. Good win for Liverpool though. 4 points in 2 games. We'll talk about their big game coming up at the weekend in just a moment. Finally, fixtures to go through. It was Southampton 3, West Ham 2. We've barely talked about it. But that was the final game of the weekend. Good win for Southampton. 2 goals for Hernandez. And Charlie Austin getting the winner, Jack, which...
And Artovich sending off was just stupid.
Let's talk about that. Yeah.
There's been a few red cards this weekend. That was like the only one where I felt like...
All for the same reason, weren't they? Like, everyone was just elbowing each other.
Pretty much.
It's who could get the best elbow in. That is one of the most disgusting red cards I've seen for a little while in the Premier League. It's so blatant, so obvious, so cynical, and I hate it. Absolutely
I just don't know what's going through his head. I mean, I'm sure Stoke fans...
Nothing's going through his head.
Stoke fans are loving that, aren't they? Record sale they've just had, and he gets sent off within, like... a few minutes of his second
and then the replacement scores as well for them later that day. I mean, they're enjoying it, I assume. So there we are then. Right, we'll be back shortly, very, very shortly indeed, to talk about our predictions for the upcoming weekend with Predictor. So join us just after this. YouTube people, hello. Kino didn't leave a little bit of voiceover for here. So what we're going to do, play a little game, leave your thoughts on Proudie's predictions, keep it as negative as possible, and I'll read out the best ones next week. This should be good fun, I think. Listeners, right, welcome. We are now going to talk through our predictions. Of course, we are sponsored by Predictor. Please do check out their website as well. You can play along with us. There's prizes to be won, and if you do very well, a Cristiano Ronaldo signed shirt, Proudie. Are you in for a little bit of that?
Yeah.
Of course you are. Of course you bloody are. So we're going to do a few of the predictions that we've got coming this weekend. We're going to look through a few of them. Last week, Jack, I don't know about you, but I did absolutely awful.
I got half the results right.
I didn't. I got a few. I got 2 points, which I will say now, listeners, is pathetic. And it means that if you do want to sign up, by the way, link at the top of our. I think it's our pinned tweet on our Twitter as well as in the description of the YouTube video. There's plenty of time. Believe me, this can twist in a weekend. If you get a correct answer, you're loving life. I got Liverpool winning and Manchester United winning, and those are the only ones I got right, which is absolutely pathetic.
I got United winning, Leicester winning, Liverpool winning, Huddersfield winning, and I got correct goal difference in Southampton West Ham.
Did you? That's quite impressive. In which case, then, let's look at the predictions for this upcoming weekend. There's some big games going on. We're going to start then at the Bridge in another sort of must already this early in the season. Difficult game for Everton away at home. Just played City, and now they've got to go away to Chelsea. We'll just run through the line. How do we think this is going? We'll start with you, Mr. King. He's thinking about it. I've thrown him off. What do you think? Results-wise?
I think Chelsea will have enough to break Everton down, so I think it's sort of home win, and they'll definitely be on a high from the result that they just had at Wembley. They've got Fabregas back from suspension. I think he'll play and make a difference. So they'll have to improvise less in the middle. I think a comfortable 2-0 win for Chelsea.
2-0 win. Clean sheet for Chelsea. Proudie, quickly, just give me a score.
1-1.
1-1. Jack?
Which game's this, sorry?
Chelsea, Everton.
I just filled in my predictions and I can't remember what I put. Can we
have them in front of you? What do you mean you can't remember what you put?
I hit confirm and they've gone.
Get them back.
Get them back.
I've got them back 2-0 Chelsea.
Okay, it's the same as Keno. I've gone for 2-2. So I think score draw. I think it'd be a good game as well. I think Everton counter-attacking. Koeman will have learned something from this City game. And we'll try and use it against Chelsea. Next one up then, probably I would say, maybe a bit of bias, but the biggest game of the weekend for me, Liverpool-Arsenal at Anfield. And Keno, we're going to start again with you. He's obviously thought about these distance. Can you tell? He's thought about these.
No, I have been looking at them. I can't really make my mind up on this one, though. I think Liverpool will pip it. It'll be tight 1-0.
I agree. I've gone 5-1 Liverpool. Proudie?
Absolutely no chance.
5-1 Liverpool.
Liverpool to walk all over Arsenal 3-0.
3-0. Jack?
5-1 Liverpool.
That's what I said.
Listen. This is doing nothing for what the listeners think.
I'm thinking of like 2 or 3 years ago where we annihilated them, and I'm looking at them thinking they're lacking centre backs.
Jack, did you hear me say 5-1?
Well, this prediction was already filled in.
Okay,
I hit back.
Right. I'm going to go. Listen, I'm not as deluded as Jack. I'm going to go 4-1. I'll change it on the predictor straight away.
I am not deluded as any of these other guys. I'm going
to make that my banker.
Arsenal are just rubbish. That's why. If there's any other team, I'd say 1-0.
Yeah,
I'm making that one my banker.
Good. A double points on offer, folks. Right, let's go for Manchester United, Leicester. Former champions versus potential champions at Old Trafford. They've started very well, United. Will the run continue? Keno?
Yes, it will. 3-1.
Who's ready? Proudie?
4-2.
4-2. Goals galore. Jack?
I actually had 3-1 as well.
I've got 3-1 as well. Oh, look at us.
I'll go 4-0. I'll go 4-0 because I've won 4-0 last 2 games.
He's changed it. And then let's go for Newcastle West Ham. Neither side have started the season very well. So who do we think? I haven't won yet.
Should we carry on in the circle? I think actually this may be the game that West Ham get going on. I think Newcastle, Benitez will be under a hell of a lot of pressure after they lose this game, which I think they will. I think it'll be 2-1 to West Ham.
Oh, I'm just going to come in and say that's what I've got. 2-1 West Ham. Proudie?
Go for 1-0 Chicharito last 10 minutes.
Jack?
Uno.
So you think it'll be 1-1?
I do indeed. I don't know why I didn't just say that.
None of us have Newcastle winning that one, which is interesting. Okay, then that's going to wrap things up for our predictions. Of course, get involved. It's free to play for the first 2 months of the season. Take us on, see if you can beat us, as well as, of course, the fantasy football link in the description to that as well.
Please beat
Jack. That's the motto of the ForTheFans podcast this year, and that is going to bring us to the end of the show. If you've enjoyed it, of course, do drop a like on the YouTubers. We have a couple of ratings, by the way, boys, on iTunes. Shall I read one out? I feel like it's a good time to
go for it.
We got
from who?
5-star review. Best part of a Rolo. It's put. So that's the title of his review, which I
don't quite understand.
Well, Millhouse FM. Thank you so much for the review.
I'll take it.
I'll read it as written. A big fan of both Benji and Worky on YouTube. Worky is something that we might get.
That sounds like my pet name, doesn't it? That your girlfriend would give you something.
You said you used to watch on YouTube, but now he's upgraded to an iPhone. Of course, you can watch on both devices, Android, Apple, and YouTube. I should say, if you're actually on Android and you're thinking, well, I want to listen to this, but I don't have the app, there are some good podcast apps on Android, so by all means, get involved. This is a comment which I'd like on any review. These guys are probably my second favourite podcast. After Talk is Jericho, which is Chris Jericho's podcast.
I thought they were going to say these guys are probably my second favourite hosts after
Keenan and Proudie.
The other
third, for that. Yeah. Funny and well-structured opinions. It's like I'm an empty Rolo, and this podcast is the sweet caramel centre being slowly injected through my ears via the voices of Benji, Worky, Keeney and Proudie. Oh. I mean, he's not put Proudie on the end, but I've included it for your ego, Proudie.
He's probably listening about 4 months ago, isn't he?
We had another one from Summer. Finally, a football podcast with some life. Great work, lads. Keep it up. Of course, leave your ratings on iTunes. We've currently got 277 and we're 5-star reviewed. I think it's in part for us talking about it like this every single week. As ever, if you enjoy the show, do leave a like on YouTube as well and subscribe to the podcast channel at ForTheFans Show on Twitter. ForTheFansShow.com. All the links are in the description, on the screen, in your ears. Get there, do something with them, as well as the predictor and say fantasy football. That is going to bring things to an end, though. Jack, thank you for joining me.
Thank you. Looking forward to talking about Liverpool's 5-1 win against Arsenal next week.
Perfect. Keno Villa won this week, so you're in a good mood, it seems.
Deluded.
Yes. Speaking of deluded...
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
John Terry looking good.
Yeah.
What I like, by the way, just very quickly, Steve Bruce said Villa fans got a little bit carried away. Have you seen this?
Yeah, and he also said the players performed well under pressure, which if you think that's pressure.
What I liked was, we'll try and tweet it out on the Twitter. Steve Bruce said the fans have got a bit carried away with the signing of John Terry. That someone listed 15 quotes where Steve Bruce has bigged up John Terry in pre-season. It's absolutely magnificent.
I will also say we won that game, and Steve Bruce chanced upon a lineup which worked wonders, because if Agbonlahor had been there, he would have been at number 9 instead of Keenan Davis, 19-year-old Keenan Davis, who had a fantastic game, and that would never have happened. So I didn't consent to any of this
There's your monthly Villa chat right
yeah,
next
there you go. Speaking of teams that no one's that bothered about, how are Portsmouth getting on, Proudie? Just quickly as we say goodbye.
We signed a new left back. He played 40 minutes, out for the season.
Excellent. Yeah, well, that's going to end on that bombshell. That brings us to the end. We love with care from us at For the Fans. We'll see you again next week. Proudie,
I can't believe this.
I can't believe this.
Say it.
I can't believe this.